Can a single pilot transform the fate of an entire team? What reveals Hamilton about the true state of the new Ferrari SF-25, beyond the headlines and the results? Today we explore what nobody has told you. Lewis Hamilton has not only been a legendary pilot inside the paddock, but also a weight figure when it comes to talking about the technical development of a car. And in this new stage with Ferrari, his statements take even greater value, because they come from someone who is not learning to compete, but teaching to win. What he said after the Great Prize of Britain was more than an evaluation. It was a surgical diagnosis of the current state of the SF-25. He said that we have taken a step, but the way he expressed it shows much more. It was noticed in its tone and in the context that this step was not a complete victory, but a specific improvement within a structure that still has critical points to be resolved. Hamilton did not come to Ferrari to settle for a pair of podiums or decorous results. He came to win. And saying that they must still extract more from this car, what is really pointing out is that the potential of the SF-25 is still not completely unlocking. He is sending a message to the entire team. We are going in the right direction, but we are not even close to the top. The most relevant detail of his words is how he separates problems into two categories: those that can be solved in the short term, and those that will require a long-term vision. This shows that Hamilton is thinking of as a builder, not only as a corridor. He knows that some solutions may come from setup or aerodynamic adjustments, but others, perhaps linked to suspension, chassis, or even the correlation of wind tunnel data, will require planning, investment, and above all, patience. It is an engineering vision, not of improvisation. In addition, you have to read between the lines. When he speaks of making the most of what we have, he does not do it from resignation. He says it with a very clear determination. This car can give more, and depends on everyone from engineers to the strategists squeeze each millimeter of their performance. In other teams, this type of speech can go unnoticed. But in Ferrari, a team with a technical culture so sensitive to media pressure and historical legacy, their words act as a compass. Not only is he leading from the track, he is also marking the internal narrative of the team. And here's something even more powerful appears: Hamilton's ability to transform uncertainty into an opportunity. Several pilots have gone through Ferrari without being able to adapt to the internal environment, full of expectations and symbolic load. Hamilton, on the other hand, is already operating as the equilibrium point between demand and hope. He is using his voice to give direction, to tell Ferrari and the world, work has begun and I am willing to bring this project to the last consequences. The first large transformed component was the ground. For a casual spectator, it may seem one more technical element, but in reality, the soil is the cornerstone of aerodynamic performance in the era of the soil effect. Any modification here has direct consequences in the load generated by the car, stability in high-speed curves, and above all, in the tire operational window. Ferrari, under the direction of Diego Tondi, redesigned the entries to the Venturi channels with a more generous curvature, which allows a more efficient channeling of the air. This generates more stable and powerful vortices, which in simple words means that the car now grabs better in situations where he skated. But that is just the beginning. Subtle but determinants were also made on the upper ground cover, designed to manipulate how the air expands and behaves when leaving the bottom of the car. To this is added a redesign of the outer edge of the ground, internally known as the saber. This piece was adjusted to improve the aerodynamic sealing of the car, a critical aspect when it comes to maintaining the efficiency of the airflow regardless of the type of track or weather conditions. The results soon arrived. In Austria, the SF-25 showed a completely different face. Leclerc and Hamilton obtained a third and fourth place respectively, but the really important thing was how they achieved it. With a car that for the first time in the season could be taken to the limit without becoming unstable. Hamilton, at the end of that race, was direct. The improvements are working. It was not a superficial fulfillment. It was a validation of a whole technical effort that began months ago in the Maranello factory. Now, the most anticipated part of the package did not yet reach the track at that time. The new rear suspension in the test phase in Mugello and designed to debut in Belgium is perhaps the most ambitious element of the SF-25 redesign. Partially inspired by a concept that Mercedes premiered in Imola, incorporates an angular arm in the upper fork that allows more rigidity in slows and slow curves, two Achilles heels of the Ferrari of previous years. This system seeks to keep the back more stable at times where Ferrari suffered control losses, especially in curve outputs and abrupt address changes. What this allows is not only better control, but the possibility of bringing the lowest car to the ground. And that, in a soil effect regulation, is equivalent to a performance jump. That is, Ferrari is not simply solving problems of the present. It is building a platform that allows you to attack more aggressiveness during the rest of the championship. But all improvement has its face B. And it is that this type of innovations must be accompanied by real-time adaptation by the pilots. Change the way to stop, the type of input to curve, even the ideal rhythm of the race. What in other teams could cause an internal mismatch, in Ferrari it is being digested with maturity. Hamilton and Leclerc have worked side by side with engineers to understand each modification in the car, and have even adapted their driving styles, something that Hamilton has mentioned as a priority to extract the maximum of this SF-25. To really understand what these improvements mean in SF-25 within the context of the 2025 season, it is not enough to observe a specific career or an isolated result. You have to look at the general panorama, which is much more complex and competitive than in previous years. And this is where Ferrari's technical updates charge a vital strategic dimension, because it is not only about finding tenths for return, but of successfully integrating into a championship narrative in which each improvement, each technical decision, and each free session counts as a war chapter. Ferrari is not alone in this battle. McLaren has started the year with a solid domain, leading both the Builders and Pilot Championship. His car, the MCL-39, is fast, consistent, and well-balanced in long race conditions. Mercedes, although still one step behind, has signs that his new approach is paying off, especially with George Russell taking good results from the first Grand Prix. And Red Bull, although beaten by its technical instability and the internal drama that has shaken its structure since the late 2024, continues to have Max Verstappen, who has shown that he can win even in a non-perfect car. In the midst of this environment, Ferrari needs more than technical improvements to compete. It needs strategic regularity. And it is precisely here that the recent updates of the SF-25 become a tool not only of performance, but of operational management. Because the expansion of the operating window of the tires, achieved with the new soil configuration and aerodynamic improvement, has changed the game. This car can now perform more predictably in a broader range of temperatures and conditions, which reduces vulnerability to aggressive undercut strategies or errors in advance with gums. This was evident, for example, in the way Ferrari behaved in Austria and in the preparation for the GP of Great Britain. It was no longer just about surviving stints with the tires in good condition, but of using them to attack in key moments. And that changes the complete dynamics of the races. When you can trust that your car is not going to come down after 10 laps with the average compound, you dare to go for alternative strategies, to use the track to press the rivals and force them to errors. Therefore, these improvements cannot be seen as a simple advance within the SF-25, but as a broader message. Ferrari has stopped reacting and has begun to anticipate. He has left the survival mode and has entered a stage where he can design the career rhythm instead of simply following him. From the first moment in Maranello, Hamilton has acted as a catalyst inside the Ferrari ecosystem. Its involvement in development processes has been intense, attending simulator sessions, reviewing data with engineers, proposing configuration settings, and even influencing the hierarchy of priorities in the development of the car. It is no accident that the most effective aerodynamic improvements of Ferrari have emerged just after their first track evaluations. There is a direct connection between what Lewis identifies as a problem and what the team subsequently adjusts in the car. But there is an even more powerful component than data or simulations: team psychology. Ferrari has been trapped in an internal pressure cycle, strategic errors, and unfulfilled expectations. With Hamilton in the garage, the team now breathes differently. There is a sense of direction, purpose. Engineers work with greater determination because they know they are designing for someone who can execute surgical precision. The strategists refine their decisions because they know that if they fail, it will be Hamilton who has to survive on the track. And that imposes a standard. Now, taking Ferrari to the title is not a feat that depends exclusively on the pilot. It also requires continuity of technical performance, impeccable mechanical reliability, and impeccable career management on the most critical weekends of the calendar. This is where the synergy between Hamilton and the team becomes a key tool. While Ferrari does not have the most complete car in the championship today, it is reducing that distance with each evolution. And Hamilton is the type of pilot who, with a 95% car, can obtain 100% results. Because its ability to adapt, reading, and tire management at critical moments is still possibly the best of the entire grill. But the reality is that the challenge is colossal. Opposite are McLaren with an aerodynamically superior car on high-speed paths, Red Bull that, although fractured internally, is still lethal in the hands of Verstappen, and Mercedes, which is gradually finding consistency. So that Hamilton can take Ferrari to the title, the entire Ferrari system must operate in synchrony. From track technicians to the designers in the factory, through the strategists on the wall and those responsible for development in Maranello. What do you think of all this?